Hi, it's Kiffin Lobates here, and a continuation of the previous video about social media and NFTs. And one of the things that working on this project has highlighted to me is the problems with open authentication, or OAuth. So what you can do on the internet at the moment is you can, in quotes, use your social media account in order to log on to other websites. You've seen the kind of thing. You go to a website and it says, put your username and password in here, or log on with LinkedIn, Google, Facebook, Twitter, and then you just click on the button, and that's a lot easier than having to enter your username and password. And the thing is that it says that it's open authentication, the protocol that is being used to do this, but I think that's a bit of a misnomer, because you're not authenticating. It's actually an identity and access management system. And in my book, I talk a bit about the subtle differences between access and identity and authentication and verification and things like that. There are subtle but very important distinctions between the different terms that are used in the industry to talk about the process of making sure that the person you're dealing with is that person, and that they're allowed to do what it is that they want to do. So open authentication kind of authenticates in a sort of side effect way. When you click that button saying, I want to log in with Twitter, what you're actually doing is you're giving the website a token that allows them to retrieve information from your social media profile. And a side effect of that is that you should be the only person who can give the website that token. So in a sense, you are authenticating yourself to be, or identifying yourself to be, that person. And then the website can verify that it is indeed you, because it can retrieve your profile details. And one of the problems with this is it means that when you have, in quotes, logged on to a website using open authentication, you haven't actually logged on. You've just briefly shown that the person at the other end of the connection is the owner of that social media profile and not some other person. And the reason why that is significant is because one of the problems I've hit in my project is that I would really like for my website to be able to log in people using their social media account and then challenge them to sign something to really prove that it is them. And you can't call the Twitter API with a challenge for the API to sign and hand back. It just doesn't work that way. Now, I think maybe I'm getting a bit too technical here, but the issue is that I would really like to be able to link the minted NFT to the account that is minting it in my Souls project. And unfortunately, the only way I can see of doing that is by the roundabout method of the owner of the social media profile storing their Ethereum address in their profile somewhere where it could be retrieved by my website. And even there, open authentication doesn't allow for a special data field to be created. It's up to each and every individual website what data they present, and there are some standard forms of data like name, email address, profile picture, and so on. And then there are a whole bunch of other random ones depending on the social media site that you're dealing with. So it's kind of frustrating from a developer point of view because it's fragmented. It reminds me a bit of the fragmentation that I see in NFTs, where there are kind of standards that have been set for metadata files, but they're not rigorously adhered to. And the shocking thing, of course, is that open authentication is much, much older than the ERC 721 or the ERC 1155 standard, and it's still not really working very well. And I've found a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of developers on the internet complaining how they're trying to put together particular programs or functionality, and they're tripping up over the same problem, needing custom data fields that are stored in a social media profile or some website profile that can then be retrieved through open authentication to do sort of two-way authentication, or to allow for subsequent challenge responses that can be encapsulated in transactions so that later on those transactions can be verified to be true. So again, this actually kind of works in blockchain already. In that sense, blockchain has a much better identification and identity and access management capability in place than OAuth does, because you can use something like MetaMask to sign a challenge. And In fact, there are some tutorials on the web where you can see how you can use MetaMask as a means to allow people to log on to your website. Kind of technical, this one. I hope I didn't lose all of you. I'm sure the developers who follow me probably found this fairly interesting though, because there's a whole load of opportunity opening up in the IT and computing space, thanks to blockchain and thanks to its ability to help us with identity. That's it for today. We'll go back to something simpler and more fun in the next video, I promise. Bye for now.